Welcome to the newsroom. I'm Kisanai. In our newsroom today is Igor Blazevic.
It's my real pleasure and honor as well to be. The DVB is my old friend, and I'm really honored to have opportunity to talk with your audience and to share how I understand the current dynamics in Myanmar.
You have been traveling a lot during these days, especially during your visit to Thailand, and you met many of your friends who were part of the Spring Revolutions. So I would like to ask, what do you learn from them? And I would like you to share with us, and what are the current main trends in the Spring Revolutions?
So, in a certain way, since the coup, we are constantly in a critical moment. So the first critical moment has been whether people en masse will join the protests, and people have done that. Then the next critical moment has been when the military has applied brutal crackdown against the non-armed civilian protests, whether people will find the courage and find a new way how to oppose junta. People have done that. So in that sense, it's impossible to say, oh, this is especially critical moment, but on the other side, it is a critical moment. Sit in their fortress and try to inflict as big pain on the civilian population as they can. And they are doing it through the military operation, which are targeting primarily civilians, and they are doing it through the hyperinflation, they are doing it through the squeezing and capturing everything what is resource in a country and putting it into the war of terror against the civilian population. So it's hard to endure that kind of the brutality. But on the other side, the resistance, and when I say resistance, I both mean the civic resistance and the armed resistance, are not only successfully defending themselves and are not defeated, but they are starting more and more to squeeze junta into the more and more narrow space, politically, territorially, economically, militarily. In this squeeze place, they are still strong, and they can inflict a lot of pain, but they cannot be in a control anymore. So we are now in a situation in which it's very, very important to continue this momentum of the ongoing pressure, and we need to change the perspective of the internationals, what's going on in Myanmar, because from the outside there is a complete misunderstanding what is the reality in the country.
Amid these very depressing situations and amidst the international community's misunderstanding, so what are the positive dynamics of these trends? What are the remaining strengths?
I see a number of the positive. One thing is the ongoing participation of the people. We still see people cannot take the streets in a mass numbers now, but people are finding many other ways how they are showing that they are rejecting the junta and that they are supporting the profound change in the country. So this level of the participation of the many thousands and hundreds of thousands of people is something what is constantly fueling this stubborn, determined resistance. And that I'm in a contact with the many people in Myanmar. I will just kind of give one example. I have just recently met, two CDM educators, but they have been also kind of in a certain level of the higher managerial position in an educational system of the Myanmar before the coup. When they joined the protests, because they joined the protests, they lost their house. They have been forced to go and escape. They are spending their savings, what they have, to continue to escape and to be in hiding. But at the same time, they have organized 250 other educators across the Chin State, Sagaing, Magwe. And with these 250 educators, they are running incredible programs of the vocational training, vocational educations, which are these educators on the ground are in the IDP camps in this semi-liberated territory, are helping people gain the skills which can strengthen the communities and which can create a small income for them. So impressive. And then when we imagine that there are hundreds and thousands of the people in Myanmar who are in that way making a contribution through their civic resistance, through their armed resistance, this is impressive. This is really impressive. In the last 15 years, there has been probably 10 big uprisings of the people against the bad regimes in Hong Kong, in Belarus, in Venezuela, in Egypt, and in many other countries. All these uprisings have faced the brutal crackdowns, and after 3 to 6 months to 8 months, they have been crashed down. People gave up. People of the Myanmar have not only not given up, but they have succeeded to push significantly junta. So I think that we are in a situation that if we continue this pressure, there is a moment, we don't know when it will come, we don't know how it will come, but there is the moment when the military structure will implode from the bottom up.
We can see the junta is getting weaker and weaker. So do you see the weakness of junta today, and what are their remaining strengths you see? How do you think?
They are getting significantly weaker in a situation of their troops on the ground. They are simply stretched across the two big countries, which are stretched and exposed to the small but significant attacks by the many units. Their units, if they have been supposed to have 200, 250 soldiers, they don't have it now more than the 70. They can't recruit, and for the first time in a decades in Myanmar, these soldiers sitting now somewhere on the outposts are afraid. Until this revolution, they have never been afraid. They have had this confidence. They can go out, they can kill, they can rape, they can rob, they can burn, they can do whatever they want, and with a total impunity. Now, let's say, if they go out, they don't know whether they will come back. And this is psychologically changing the dynamic of between the resistance and between the junta. So this is their very weak point. The second thing is junta is running out of the hard cash. They can print money and create the inflation to make a pressure on the people, but they are running out of the cash. So these are the two main weaknesses on their side. What they have to try to survive. One thing is to inflict the pain on the civilian population and try to endure longer than the civilian population can. The second thing, to try to get legitimacy from the regional countries. They don't care about international world, but they care about India, China, Thailand, and few other ASEAN countries. So this will be now significant push from their side to try to achieve certain acceptance during the Lao chairmanship, and we need to block that. We need to push that back. And the third thing, they will play with the Aung San Suu Kyi to manipulate the mood in a population, and they have started to be better and better in using the hardship on our side, using the trauma on our side to insert the discord, disunity, to disagreement between us. So they are using a lot now social media to fuel, and the technology of the Russians, how to spread the polarization in society. So they are using it now to create a lot of quarrel between the different revolutionary forces, to outblow them, to break us psychologically in a moment when they can't defeat the resistance militarily anymore.
Do you see this kind of scenario that our revolution will be kind of like a Bedouin Square scenario, or there will be another step forward?
Look, the Myanmar military had advantage until this time. They had advantage that in a certain way they have been able to pick up whom they fight in every single moment. So they have been able to always isolate a certain segment of the political and social forces who are in rebellion against them, and then crush them while making whatever ceasefire or making a certain corrupt deals or anything else with other stakeholders. So they have been very, very good in playing this game, almost never picking up fight against more than one opponent. This time, situation is completely different. Let's say this time the military has activated, or the junta and failed coup has activated very, very broad spectrum of the players who are fighting them. What is now critically important is we have I describe it in the following way. We have in a current struggle three sources of the legitimacy. One source of the legitimacy is coming from the 2020 elections, or we can go deeper, is coming from the popularity of the Aung San Suu Kyi among the broad swathes of the population of the country, or I can go deeper and say it's 30 years of the NLD being the symbol of the opposition to the junta. So this is one source of the legitimacy. Another source of the legitimacy is coming from the 70 years of the ethnic nationalities struggle for the liberation of them as ethnic groups. That kind of the legitimacy is autonomous legitimacy. It's coming from its own logic, from its own history. The third legitimacy is coming from the driving forces of the Spring Revolution. Because the Spring Revolution has been, at least in the first year, driven significantly by the new players, if we want. And now we have a little bit problem that we have a competition of whose legitimacy is the upper one. And we can't solve it. Nobody's legitimacy of these three is the upper one. What we need a clear consensus, agreement between these three sources of the legitimacy, of these three political and civic leadership coming from these three sources, to have a constantly something what I call minimum consensus. We don't need now that everybody agrees about everything, how Myanmar in future will look like, because we don't know whether that future will come. We need to secure that future. And to secure that future, we need a minimum consensus between these key three actors. And in order to defeat Min Aung Hlaing, to defeat junta, to remove them, that will make military weak. And let's say then we need to stop violence, stop war, stop terror against the civilian population, release political prisoners, let people come back to their villages, let people pick up the pieces of their life, bring economy back, bring a safety back, and then start the serious political discussions how the future should look like.
So how do you see these anti-junta sides, such as their alliance building trust or lack of trust, drafting transitional documents, roadmaps, relation between armed and civil resistance, etc.?
Take the questions one by one. I think that the dilemma, armed resistance or civic resistance, is a wrong dilemma. It's not either or. We need both. These are the complementary side on one unifying struggle. We can't defeat junta, brutal beast, with the civic resistance. That's why we need the armed resistance. At the same time, armed resistance alone cannot defeat the junta without the people's participation and without involvement of the many people who cannot pick up the arms but who can contribute in another way. So these are the complementary sides of one same struggle. When it comes to the question of the roadmap, do we need a roadmap? I usually say no, we need first to cut the supply roads which junta is bringing to their troops. Let's say it's much more important now to cut the roads than to create the roadmap. I don't think that we need in this moment roadmap. We need to kind of stop the terror which junta is waging against the civilian population, and we need to defeat them.